For months, Russian forces believed they had created an impenetrable stronghold in the occupied city of Tokmak. It sat at the crossroads of the southern front, feeding 4 Russian brigades with everything from tank engines to artillery shells. In sheer volume, Tokmak moved more ammunition per day than some NATO armies store in an entire month. Inside its perimeter, the numbers sounded like something from another era. 480 tons of ammunition processed every day. 12 million liters of diesel cycled through massive fuel reservoirs. 7,200 tons of shells stacked in hangars. Aviation fuel, spare engines, repair chambers for drone fleets. The base was a city of war inside Ukraine's borders. Its defenses were equally overwhelming. 6 Pantsir S-1 air defense systems stood watch. Dozens of Tor M2 launchers ringed the outer perimeter. Shilka cannons and Strela batteries covered every angle. Over 1,200 surface-to-air missiles waited in ready storage. Nearly 200 soldiers patrolled the grounds at all hours. Russian commanders called the base unbreachable. Analysts in Moscow compared it to a steel lung keeping their entire southern command alive. And as long as Tokmak functioned, Russia could grind forward. But that belief blinded them, because hidden underneath layers of confidence was a gap, small, temporary, but devastating, and Ukraine found it. For 93 days, Ukrainian reconnaissance units watched Tokmak with cold precision. Teams from the Sapsan-Sigint group hid in tree lines, capturing radio chatter. R-18 drones painted thermal signatures across every building. Satellite passes logged every convoy, every floodlight, every guard rotation. And the only thing more impressive than what Ukraine learned was how long they waited before acting. By late September, analysts noticed something strange. Every Thursday, between 3:30 and 5:30 a.m., a pattern appeared in the thermal feed. The radar arrays powering the base's air defense grid dipped. Generators flickered. The entire radar network went dark. It wasn't a glitch. It was a weekly maintenance shutdown, an unavoidable weakness in an otherwise airtight fortress. For 2 hours each week, the sky above Tokmak became a blind corridor. When analysts brought the discovery to Kiev's Deep Operations Command, the room fell silent. Not because the window was small, but because it was exactly the window they needed. A 2-hour pause, a fortress that couldn't see, a base carrying more explosives than some nations have in their entire arsenal. It wasn't an opening, it was an invitation. General Kovalchuk gave only 3 words: execute at 3:47. Ukraine had everything it needed. Now it was time to strike. At 3:31 a.m., 15 minutes before the main assault, the first phase began. 6 Ram-2 loitering munitions and 4 Warmate-2 strike drones lifted off from a concealed ravine north of the city. They flew low, so low they skimmed fog layers and power lines. Their signatures were almost non-existent. Above them, the Tor M2 radars pulsed every few seconds, searching for intruders. But there were no echoes, nothing on screen, just silence. The drones weren't stealth technology. They were something harder to detect, slow, low, and small. Russia's radar was built to spot jets and cruise missiles, not hand-assembled aircraft the size of a backpack. At 3:39 a.m., the first strike landed. A Warmate dived straight into the primary radar dome, severing Tokmak's digital vision in a single flash. A second drone slammed into the Pantsir's sensor mast. The blast triggered a chain reaction. Fuel tanks ruptured, vehicles ignited, and alarms erupted across the base. But then, a problem. One drone lost guidance due to jamming. It drifted. It wobbled. For 10 agonizing seconds, it veered toward Ukrainian lines. But the operator regained control using a secondary uplink. The drone leveled. It turned, and it sank into the remaining radar array with a hit so precise that the explosion knocked out power grids across the compound. Tokmak had lost its eyes, and now Ukraine could bring in the blade. At 3:46 a.m., sirens screamed across Tokmak. Russian headquarters from Melitopol to Polohi issued full combat alerts. 2 Ka-52 gunships launched instantly. A quick reaction platoon scrambled toward the eastern tree line. Armor rumbled awake, but Ukraine had been waiting for this exact response. At 3:51 a.m., 6 HIMARS rockets cut through the night at Mach 2.2. Their trajectories weren't aimed randomly. They were calculated to intercept Russia's counterattack the moment it lifted off. The first rocket detonated near treetop level, ripping the rotor off a Ka-52. The second obliterated the landing field outside Tokmak. By the time the remaining helicopters realized what hit them, Polish-made Crab howitzers were already firing into the convoy routes Russia depended on. One round struck the descent path of a troop carrier. Another destroyed a line of fuel trucks waiting behind the base. A third hit a radar post that Russia didn't have time to activate. Every ironclad assumption Russia had built this fortress on, air dominance, quick reinforcements, layered defense, collapsed in under 5 minutes. And for Tokmak's garrison, the nightmare had just begun. At 4:03 a.m., the ground shook. 50 T-72 AMT tanks rolled out of the northwestern ridge, followed by armored carriers and mine-clearing vehicles. The formation advanced in total blackout mode. No headlights, no comms, nothing but the low thunder of engines. Their orders were simple: advance, erase, leave nothing that can fire back. The tanks crossed the first perimeter and fired a synchronized volley. Their shells tore open the southern warehouse, igniting more than 200 tons of ammunition. The explosion lit the night like a second sunrise. Russian infantry attempted to regroup, but the ground beneath them was dissolving into fire. BMP-2s rolled out of the eastern gate, only to be hit by a single javelin that triggered a chain explosion, blooming flames across the road. Drone footage showed armored columns carving paths through the rubble, while Punisher UAVs hovered above, feeding live coordinates into Ukrainian artillery networks. Tokmak wasn't being overrun. It was being unmade. Temperatures reached 1,200 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt vehicles and steel beams. Bunkers warped, fuel silos burst. Underground corridors folded under their own weight. Thermal feeds revealed shifting pockets of heat. Wounded soldiers crawling through broken concrete. Analysts tagged each hotspot. Artillery eliminated them in seconds. By 4:24 a.m., Ukrainian engineers breached the command bunker. They found maps fused into metal, radios melted into slag. Officers slumped in positions that suggested they never had time to understand what hit them. A thermite charge dissolved what remained. Tokmak was gone. By 5:02 a.m., the fortress that had fed Russia's entire southern front no longer existed. 12 warehouses, 8 fuel silos, 7,000 tons of shells, 3 million gallons of fuel, all gone. Russian artillery across the entire Zaporizhia front went silent. Convoys stopped. Fuel rations collapsed. Drone units halted sorties. Brigades that once relied on Tokmak suddenly found themselves fighting, blind, hungry, and low on ammunition. Western intelligence agencies called it the most precise combined arms strike of the war. Within days, several NATO states greenlit new aid packages worth more than $1 billion. The operation didn't just destroy a base, it reshaped diplomatic momentum. But the victory wasn't free. 11 Ukrainian soldiers didn't return from the mission. Their names weren't released. Their families would wake to news that carried both pride and silence. War does not celebrate intelligence. It merely records it. Tokmak's destruction wasn't just a tactical win. It sent a message. Russia now fears a second silent Dagger. A fortified city can be rebuilt, but a psychological wound like this never fully closes. There are whispers in Western intelligence of deeper vulnerabilities in Russia's logistics chain, rumors of new Ukrainian capabilities still hidden from public view. Signs of a shift toward warfare built not on mass, but on information. The world may not realize it yet, but what happened at 03:47 a.m. on October 16th could be the blueprint for conflicts to come, where the side with better sensors, better timing, and better patience wins before the first shot is ever fired. And now the question moves from the battlefield to the war rooms. If you were the commander, would you stop here or strike again before dawn? If you believe this story deserves to be heard, subscribe. The next chapter of this war is already unfolding, and what comes next may redefine modern warfare forever.